I want to talk about something that for a long time after I learned about it, it kind of took over for me in in a way that not a lot of concepts regarding, spiritual enlightenment and awakening. Um, there's a lot of things that I've learned in my journey so far, and I know that there's a lot of things that I will learn. But this concept, because of the implications of it, when I started to learn about it, it caused a great deal of turmoil for me because there was nowhere that I could look that I wasn't seeing this play out. Literally, just driving down this street right now, to the left and to the right of me, I'm seeing representatives of this concept. And my experience has been working. We all have that experience of a messed up policy or a messed up rule for insert whatever name of whatever business, whatever government organization, whatever charity, whatever, just fill in the blank. And we've seen a person tasked with enforcing that messed up rule. And we've all had a situation where we're like, all right, person to person, man, this is jacked up. And the person's like, you know what? I know, but I'm just doing my job. And I can remember when I was younger, working at Universal Orlando Resort as a gameskeeper, there were situations that would come up where I would just have to do my job. And then when I left that position to join the Marine Corps, obviously there were situations where I had to do my job. And even in joining the Marines, there were situations where things were said in a way to make me understand what I was doing joining the military. But at the same time, I don't think that the people who were saying it fully comprehended what they were saying. So, what is the Marine Corps? I'll stick with that. What is the Marine Corps? It's a military branch, right? Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. It's a branch that's made up of people. It's a branch that we thought up, right? Tun Tavern, 1776, right? So a group of people came together to create a branch of service for air, land, and sea. And in today's world, every Marine that joins is told that you sign this dotted line and it's no longer what you want for your life. Your life is determined by the needs of the Marine Corps. And the first time that I heard that, I'm like, you know what? As long as I'm not signing an open contract, as long as I can choose the field that I go into, I'll do it. And they hammered in the point, my recruiter hammered in the point, and I thank him for hammering in the point that even if you sign to a specific field, it's still the needs of the Marine Corps. Now, what is the Marine Corps? It's a thought structure that a group of people in a bar came up with, right? And it's grown into what it is today. And that's just one entity. All of these entities that we create, when we come together, when two or more are gathered, in the scriptures, it says, I am there also, right? And we think, if you're looking at these texts, scriptural texts, as a historical document or as some type of word that was given from some God that exists somewhere out there in space that's not here, then you're wrong, because that's not what it is. So if we're looking at it from the perspective of one collective consciousness, of which we are all individuated aspects of, Check. That's the foundation, right? Now you look at each character in the scriptures as a state or a frequency that you can occupy, right? And the frequency that you can occupy will create fruit, which is situations that will occur that are related to the frequency that you resonate at. So like attracts like. That frequency that you resonate at will attract like frequencies. So when you look at the Bible that way, text like or stories like some of the things that happen in Deuteronomy where people are talking about slave masters and different things like that. No, it's not glorifying that or anything like that. No, it's a book that talks about the states that we can occupy. So yes, all things have to be in there, removing your judgment from that, understanding that in with this I am presence that is non-judgmental in nature, that simply is, all things are possible. And just as we can use this I am presence to declare good for ourselves, we can misuse this I am presence to declare bad for ourselves. And that's on an individual level. Now, when we collectively come together and declare we are, when two or more are gathered, I am there also. So now the thought waves that leave your head are combining with other thought waves that leave other people's heads. And they're combining. The energy of your emotions is filling these thought forms, right? And now this energetic structure begins to take a different shape. Instead of the shape of whatever thought form, and all thought forms have different shapes, then I'll read, not maybe, I will read, it's a book from, I believe, 1928 called Thought Forms, with images of different thought forms based on different emotions. And I wish that they had gone a step further in that book to talk about combined thought forms, because these combined thought forms are really at the helm of every conflict within human civilization. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people who occupy negative states. That's not what I'm saying. But it is more likely that someone is pushed into a negative state or made a favorite of a destructive combined thought entity than it is that that person simply just wittingly fell into that state. Now, mind you, that doesn't change the fact that, yes, some people are what we would consider, excuse me, not today. Some people are what we would consider to be evil. Because if you understand that we live within the mind of God, then you have to understand that all things exist within this mind of God. You have to be willing to accept that. And the moment that you're willing to accept that, then you realize that all things are possible to you. You start to see how this thing plays out. But getting back to these combined thought forms, or as they're called in reality transurfing, pendulums, or as they called in certain in religious organizations, angels, demons, egregores, spirits, and not necessarily spirits, because everything has a spirit. But we're aware that this world is threefold. We have a mental, we got a physical plane, and we got a spiritual plane. So these thought forms, which exist on the mental plane, these thought forms, which have power in an astral realm, which when you're traveling through an astral realm, you can see all of these things, which is why people who delve into the astral realm, they'll come back with all types of stuff. And you got to understand that these combined thought forms are an amalgamation of the energy that went into them. So if you're creating something with somebody, people always say, be careful about your business partners. People talk about how, you start a business with a friend and you could potentially lose that friendship. So be careful about things like that. This is why when you're pooling your thought energy with somebody, it's the same thing for a relationship. When you're two or more, it only takes two to create these things. But when you're combining your thought energy with another person, for one, you don't know what state that they're occupying, and the state that they're occupying is going to resonate within within this pendulum. So you create rules within this pendulum. You add other souls to this pendulum. And after a while, it's no longer about what the original thinkers intended. It's no longer about that. After a while, it becomes more about the needs of the pendulum, or insert whatever random organization that you've ever encountered in your life, or whatever random ideology that you've ever encountered in your life. See, what we don't understand is all of the ways that life can take form. We see things that don't move, that seem incapable of having an autonomous of making autonomous action, right? So we look around and we see this universe is dead. We don't see all of the life in it. And we don't understand that there's more life that we don't see than there is life that we do see. And the unseen phenomena has more of an effect on us than any of the seen phenomena. And that is the 100% truth. It absolutely is. Or if you want to disprove it, drop it in the comments. Let's go. We can go back and forth. I'm all about the debate. Let's go. So these pendulums, they're an unseen phenomena. And after a while, when a pendulum forms into the structure of a pendulum, if you think about a hypnotist, old school hypnotist, let's talk 1960s, the ones with the little silver coin, right? Or the silver clock or whatever on the chain, swinging back and forth. You are now getting sleepy. Let's think about that pendulum, right? If a hypnotist doesn't add energy to that swing, then the pendulum stops, right? It's not just going to keep swinging back and forth forever, right? So when it comes to these energetic structures that take the form of a pendulum, it's the same deal. They're looking for energy to keep the swing going. And they gather energy from the emotions and thoughts of the adherents. And the adherents are any people who are in support or against the entity, the pendulum. So your support for the thought form swings the pendulum, and your lack of support for the thought form, your anger, your hate towards the thought form, insert whatever political or affiliation, insert whatever turmoil, right there, insert it. That helps the pendulum to swing. And it's not I don't want to give my energy, so let me just, no. These pendulums can take your energy regardless of whether or not you allow it. Thinking at the frequency of the pendulum is what allows it to take your energy. So when you're just casually listening to drama and you don't like the drama that you're listening to, so you're listening to some destructive news and you don't like the destructive news that you're listening to, but you're continuing to consume it. You're continuing to meditate on it. You're resonating at that level. And by law, that pendulum of that negative information continues to swing. Not only that, it grows stronger. Now it wants more adherents to maintain its swing, because it takes more energy to maintain its swing. Now, as I said, the original intent of the initial thinkers no longer matters. At this point, the entity, the pendulum, the egregore, whatever it is you want to call it, the combined thought form has taken on a consciousness of its own. And that consciousness that it has taken on has a goal. You think about an entity like the CIA, who a majority of people understand as a corrupt organization. We look at different intelligence agencies, and we understand that these agencies operate without any type of care for the well-being of any soul, regardless of the fact that the original intent behind the initial thinkers that came together to pool their energy to initially combine and create this thought form, they created it as a means to enhance our safety. But look where it's gone now. Look at the experiments that have been done on us. Look at the control that has been exuded over us. And this is just one. Just one. These entities are everywhere. And I know I've given a lot in this video of information that can lead you to think that all these entities are bad. And that's not the case either. In all of my videos, no matter what it is that I'm saying, I want you to try to remain as non-judgmental as possible. Because no matter what it is that we're talking about, whether we're talking about the evilest of witchcraft and sorcery, or whether or not we're talking about the most magnificent of love and charity, it don't even matter. We have to maintain a state of non-judgment, because we have to remember that all power is given to us. And if we assign a judgment to something, what we're doing is we're creating from that state. And that's not necessarily, I'm not trying to create a state of fear in you when I tell you about these structures, these entities. I'm not trying to do that. Being aware of the fact that these things exist. So instead of seeing the CIA as simply as an organization that a few corrupt souls inhabit, no, you see it as a conscious, energetic thought structure that is hell-bent on maintaining its not only its adherence, but its level of control, which is only maintained if it continues to swing. Should the adherents realize that they are greater than the thought creation that is controlling them, all they'd have to do is turn their awareness away from it and towards love. And I understand if I say, turn their awareness away from it and towards love, you may think the initial thought may be, oh, well, here he goes talking about religion, talking about turning to this love for everybody. We should all have love for everybody. And yes, I don't mean turn into a religion. I mean turning their awareness away from it and turning to love, meaning understanding that each soul is just an individuated aspect of the one. So what you do for one soul, you do for the collective. Turning to love means allowing yourself to be love and allowing yourself to receive love. That's how we start to turn away from these destructive pendulums. And then our awareness of what these pendulums are and how they operate will govern how we come together to create pendulums that actually serve us. Because yes, that's a thing. We can create pendulums that serve us. But here's what I've seen in the past when we try to create pendulums that serve us. I'll look at a pendulum that serves a majority of people of low income today in this country. Let's look at the pendulum of government aid. Now, the pendulum of government aid, if you look at it from the perspective of a person who finds a need for it, it's a savior, right? Due to circumstance, you don't have the ability to provide all of the necessities of life for yourself and your family. So, as a community welfare project, welfare being trying to enrich, not necessarily make everyone rich, but just make their lives better, to ensure that even people on the lower end of our communities have a good standard of living, right? Decent standard of living, the basic necessities. And then you think about the other side of it being a government official who is lobbying or who has to deal with lobbyists who will give aid, give support to get you in a position as long as certain things are put in the works. Certain things are made easier for them. And you start to see how, due to not necessarily a fault of the individuals who were radiating at the frequency of needing government aid, corruption still exists within the pendulum of government aid. You can see how funds that may have initially been intended to go towards aiding individuals is spliced and spliced and spliced until only a small percent ends up actually going to where it was originally intended. And that's not just with government aid, it's with a lot of different pendulums that the original intent was help. You see how it gets twisted. And that's why I say a return to love, a return to an awareness that helping one soul is helping the collective. You help one soul change their state. Now they're radiating at a different level. They go home at that different level and people notice a change in them. Now a family's radiating at a different level. Aren't they creating potentially a positive pendulum? You look at some of these families that have generations of wealth, and you can see how a familial pendulum can have great implications over a person's life. Changing the state of one person who is a linchpin for their family can change the entire trajectory of a generation within that family. The impact can be astounding. Who knows what their grandkids build because they don't have to occupy a state of poverty, because they don't have to occupy a state of thinking that they're less than. Now, I know that I've gone all over the place with these pendulums just because I want to give you an idea of just how vast this concept is, and why when I first learned about it, not today, when I first learned about it, I was so fearful. I saw pendulums everywhere. I saw their attachments to me. I saw their control over me, and I wanted no part of it whatsoever. I started destroying pendulums left and right, regardless of the souls that were a part of them. And that's not necessarily right, because you have to understand that just like the kid who's just doing their job, There are people who don't know this stuff. And for them, they don't see their organization as a conscious thought structure. Just even saying that, you say that to the wrong person, they'll look at you like you crazy, man. You say that in the wrong circle, that's a wild statement. To think of Chevron as a conscious entity, to think of Walmart as a conscious entity with its own will, to think of USA as a conscious entity with its own will. In the wrong circles, that'll get you ostracized. Tearing down these, or trying to tear down or fight a pendulum, only adds energy to the swing. Remember what I said. It gains energy from people who are for it, and it gains energy from people who are against it. So you take an energetic thought structure like Black Lives Matter, where obviously people are trying to bring awareness to the fact that people of a certain skin color, their life matters. They have meaning. And on the other side, people are saying, okay, yes, but all lives matter, not just this group. So you got people that are for it, you got people that are on the opposite side, and you got people saying, oh yeah, well, blue lives matter, the police lives matter. And as you know, as you can glean from the way that I speak, I believe every soul matters. And if we keep it there and operate from a perspective of fuck what you look like, fuck where you been, what you've been through. And I'm not diminishing your trauma. I got my own, but we all got that, right? So these things are things that we can all connect on, right? So the unifying thing between us is that we're all souls who have this experience. We're all souls who filter these emotions on a day-to-day basis. We're all souls who believe we got a purpose. We're all souls who believe that we can do something more than what we've been doing. Imagine if we created pendulums that truly operated on a basis that all souls matter. Now you may say, but haven't we? We have all of these religions, and all of these religions preach love. You understand? You understand what I'm saying, right? In all of these videos, I may say a lot, but sometimes it's the things that I don't say that means more. These religions may preach love. But what has happened in practice? What did I say? What have I said? The original intent of the initial thinkers no longer matters when these entities become conscious. At that point, it becomes about maintaining its swing. So it's like this. We come to a point in this life where we're grown enough to realize that we're not our emotions, that we're the filter for them, right? And we realize that it ain't wise for us to just lash out. We realize that we got to be above doing stupid shit. We realize that. Think about these pendulums as thought structures or life that we didn't know we could create. We knew we could come together, make certain combinations. If you've been listening to my my Kabbalion Hermetic philosophy tapes, you know the principle of gender. We come together, form certain combinations, and then new atoms are formed, right? We come together, we make babies. We know we can make that life, but we didn't know that we can make life in the mental realm by combining by pulling our thought energy and emotions. We didn't know about that. So this life, essentially, in terms of our consciousness, like us, is in its infancy. So, yeah, you may have a entity of a NSA that spies on its citizens that seems like it's been around for a while because it'll outlive some souls, but it's a juvenile creation that we still control if we can realize that these souls are in control and that this world is for souls. So instead of when somebody like me comes along and they actually have some type of authority, they're not just making videos in their car, they actually have the ability to, or in a position to make a decision that is contrary to what is put on paper and assigned to them, and as you have to do this in order to maintain your standard of living. We need people that are willing to break the rules. It's as simple as that. We need people that are willing to break the rules. We need people that are willing to look at something and say, this ain't right. And I don't care if it's my job. My riches come from inside of me. My power comes from inside of me. It's not this entity. So if I see something that's fucked up to another soul, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call it out to who I need to call it out to. And I'm going to appeal to the soul in them. And I'm going to say, Mr. So-and-so, sitting in the high chair, this ain't right. What are you going to do about it? Because you're a soul just like me. And your position doesn't make you greater than me. And the seeming power that you have doesn't mean that you're above another soul. So this ain't right. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to make this better? We can come together and create whatever we want. What do we want? What do we need? What does society need? Understand, fighting, as I said, against a pendulum only makes it swing higher. That's what it does. So this isn't about going back and forward. I love to debate. And one of the things that you learn about debating, if you really debate it, I debated in high school. I wish I would have debated in college because to this day, my love for debate causes me issues. When I start talking to people and they can't handle somebody actually showing any type of passion or any level of emotion. For them, it's scary. Oh my God, you're a human who shows emotion. Most people haven't dealt with confrontation at all, or they're so afraid of confrontation. Any level of emotion above being NPC triggers them. But if you really debate it, then you know that to be a masterful debater, you need to be able to argue both sides. And one of the things that I love, I will never forget my very first debate prompt. I promise this is going somewhere. It's not just a tangent. It was about whether or not space travel should be a private or public sector. And that was my introduction to learning about SpaceX, about the limitations of NASA, learning about Elon Musk. And I can remember that I had my certain opinions one way. But the funnest thing in the world to me was when I needed to do research to debunk myself, to debate against what I personally felt was the right answer. And it was fascinating to me that I could create arguments both for and against what I personally believed. And that's when I realized that it's just a belief. It's just ideology one way or the other. And you see it. We can argue perpetually. We can argue without stop forever. And nothing will change. Nothing. The only way that something actually changes is for us to actually take action on the things that actually would cause change. Radical change comes from not fighting an entity, but us just being aware enough and resonating at a frequency of love enough to say, oh yeah, nah, this entity, nah. We understand that there's souls within this entity. We're going to take care of you. This is not about hurting you. We're not tearing down this organization to destroy your life. This is not about hurting you. So that the souls within the entities that we inevitably need to destroy, they don't feel the need to take up arms against us because they don't feel like we're attacking. They don't feel attacked. Whenever we feel attacked, we feel it. You feel the need to defend. This isn't about souls battling souls. We've seen what souls battling souls does. And we've seen how ideology can cause souls to battle souls. It could perpetually. Look at what's going on in the Middle East right now. But we get distracted because of different things like assassination attempts. The two wings of our political bird flapping in a disorganized manner. I'm gonna get this out. I'm gonna get this out. When I say what it takes is us realizing who we are collectively and the power that exists within us, and then moving in that energy, making it so that policies, organizations that are destructive to souls are inept. The thought structures would have to cease to exist. Do you know how many defunct pendulums there are? There's countless. You think about stone tools. You think about DVDs, cassettes, VCRs. Think about old recording equipment. You think about the old ways we used to build architectures. You think about older cars. You think about different brands that no longer exist. If these things can go defunct, then surely some of the most destructive pendulums that exist today can go defunct. Now, I believe my purpose is this: sharing this knowledge, making sure that I don't harbor it. I send it to you. I don't know what experience you have, what connections you have. I don't know that. I don't know how this video is going to impact you. I don't know what the I am presence that you are is going to come up with based on your experiences, your unique perspective of the universe, as a potential solution based on this knowledge. But here's what I can believe. Even though what I've seen doesn't necessarily agree with this, this is what I have to believe. I have to believe that the more love that I show and the more love that I'm open to receiving, my world around me will start to reflect that. And I have to believe that when I'm driving around and I'm imagining for somebody, or when I'm in a store and I'm hearing somebody, or when I walk into a restaurant, when I'm in a checkout line and I'm seeing somebody start to shake because they potentially don't have it. And I'm seeing their bank account overflowing. I'm seeing their pocketbook overflowing, thinking for them. Or when I'm in a restaurant and I see somebody interviewing and I can see that they're nervous looking at all the people around. And I picture the cool, calm, collected spirit within me flowing to them, giving them the words to say. When I say, I have to believe that if I can see a different world, even if I don't got the power to make some of these changes myself, even if people look at me and see a threat in my day-to-day world, even if people look at me and judge me and say that I'm less than in my day-to-day world, you who watch this video and go about your life, maybe you have the power to help this world that I see up here come about around here. I have to believe that, or else I can't make these videos. I can't show this level of passion. Can you imagine somebody talking like this in a room with a group of people? I've tried it, and I've seen the vitriol and the hate that I get receive after it. So all I can do is talk to a camera like this and hope that there's somebody on the other end who can understand and see that this passion is here for a reason. Because I've seen this shit, and I've seen the destruction that these pendulums can cause, and I'm sick of it. And I know that I can't fight them the traditional way, because I'll give them my energy, and they can't have my energy. You see my energy? They can't have my energy. You need my energy. So I'm sending it to you. Whatever you do, wherever it is that you work, I don't care where you are. If there's a rule that's fucked up and it's messing up souls, you got the power to do something about it. Don't sit there and allow things to pass through you that you know ain't right. We say don't judge, lest you be judged. But when something doesn't feel right to you, you know it. Do something about it. All power is given to you in heaven and in earth. You got the power to do something about it. So do something about it. And I promise you, your life will change. I promise you it will. And I'm telling you as somebody who's tried and been fired, tried and been locked out, been ostracized, had social circles collapse, family turn. I'm telling you as somebody who's experienced all that shit, and I'm still moving. If it couldn't break me, it ain't gonna break you. Don't look at this world as broken. Don't look at this world as hopeless. Don't look at this world as less than. Don't look at another soul as lacking. Don't hear somebody telling you a fucked up situation from an organization that they have somebody beating and coming after them from within an organization that they have no recourse for. Organizations being put in place to filter people from housing to streets. Don't look at this shit and then say, this is what it is. There's nothing I can do. If you can think, you can do more than anything. If you can think, you got all the power. Look, I'm done screaming at you. I didn't intend to. I didn't intend to show this much passion, this much emotion when I started this topic. All I know is that the other day, I tried just having this type of conversation with just a random security guard. Just because I needed something. And his entity had rules in place that were destructive for no reason. And I told him, like, listen, you work for this entity. You see how these rules are structured. Who are we creating these for? That was the point that I was making to him. And then I get notice that, oh, this person thinks that you're rude, this person thinks this and that. It's because I showed a little bit of passion. In the 3D, on my day-to-day, they may not be ready for my passion yet. But if you're watching these videos, it's because you need a spark. You don't find my videos unless you're ready to really hear the raw truth. And I don't claim to be some type of guru or some type of dude who's on some spiritual level of Max this, Hindu this, Buddhist this. Nah, that ain't it. While I have books on and study all of those texts, while I was initially raised a Christian, while I've attended Jewish services, as well as been hunted by Jewish populations, and that's not a misstatement, been hunted by Jewish populations. I'm just a dude who sees the through line, that the souls are the filters. And every one of us is a beautiful soul with a radiant light, an iridescent, luminous quality that can never be taken away. But if you believe that you're just this shell, that you're just this skin, this flesh and bone, you diminish your power. I ain't gonna let that happen. Look, I love you. I don't show you my passion unless I love you. I couldn't make these videos if I didn't love you. Looking at this video, you may see my passion in this video and think that this stuff is easy for me to do. You may look at this and say, oh, well, this person, he must have this or he must have that. Not see all the failures that I've went through. Not seeing the struggles that I had to focus. Don't look at me and think that I'm saying these things because I think I'm greater than you. That's not what this is about. I just want to see the fullest expression of you. This is a spark.